So if you're watching this, you kind of already understand that video games are something that don't really bring you joy anymore. They're not something that really spark and pique your interest. They're something that they used to do, but now it's been more frustrating and it draws a lot more anxiety to you than anything else does. And the thing is, you're kind of clinging to the past with how it felt. And the problem is, if you look at all the other advice, they're going to shame you into being like, okay, you played video games for like 5, 10 years of your life, whatever. You're a loser. Time to get to the gym, blah, blah, blah. You've learned nothing from them. And that won't help you because all the things that you need to learn about self improvement, bettering yourself, learning new skills is already hidden within game design. So if you throw away all of your experience that you've learned from literally playing games, and if you dive deep into understanding game design, you'll get ahead of all of these other people who have no idea how these things work, how things like a leveling system works and why it's motivating, how things like the level design in a game and how that can motivate, the things like the gameplay loop in a game. We have combat, resource gathering, and exploration, and how you can use that same gameplay loop to understand how to learn skills faster and be more motivated to do them in the first place. All of these things you will lose if you think that you've wasted your life on games. And honestly, that's the saddest thing that can happen to a gamer who wants to take their skills that they learned from gaming and actually put it into something that they're truly passionate about. Because when you get from that point of going from, spending 8+ hours a day of gaming, and then you figure out you're actually finding something, other things that really pique your interest. And this is weird, but the best thing about a gaming addiction is that it's probably the best addiction that you could get stuck with. So literally, if I had to force myself to have an addiction in life, whether that be something like alcohol, if it was drugs, if it was other things like porn or, I don't know, social media scrolling, and then you compare those things to video games. Dude, do you not realize that video games are the only form of addiction where you need focus, skill, and knowledge to be able to engage with your addiction? Do you know how far that sets you apart from anyone else who has any other addiction? These are things that you're going to need in every single step of your self-improvement journey. Because if you're going to want to read more books or build a business, you're going to need to understand how to hone in your focus, develop more skills, and also build more knowledge. And to quit video games and start enjoying life instead, all you need to do is pretty much do the same things that game designers get you to enjoy in the games that you play. Like, you're learning skills, you're honing in your focus for like a boss battle, and you're gaining all this knowledge about the lore that really interests you, or like weapon builds, all these kind of things. Like, literally think about the games that you play. Do you ever play a game where you're just like looking at the controller spacing out or looking at the screen spacing out? No. You're always engaged. You're always like pressing all these buttons and like doing all these things, making your character as productive as possible within the game so that you can make sure that they're doing something all the time. And because they're doing something all the time, you feel so engaged. And because you're so engaged, you feel fulfilled. And that is exactly what we're trying to get. And that's why you can spend hours and hours just pressing these random buttons here. Of course, there's a lot of game design that goes into making a game so alluring that you want to be able to play it for so long. And that's kind of the same thing that you need to do with your life. My name is Michael, and I want to help you use your love for gaming as your greatest advantage in life. Hit the subscribe button if you want to learn how to become the designer of your own life. And if you think you do all of these things in games just because games are fun, then you're so wrong that I don't even know where to start, man. I don't even need to show you the B-roll of like people raging at Elden Ring or all these games like League of Legends and even Skyrim, where people are like being frustrated or like spending hours grinding on really like tedious things like going fetch quests and all this stuff. Those things are not fun. And you know the reason why you're still doing it, even though these things aren't fun? It's because they are designed with systems. See, an intricate design is what makes these things so alluring and makes you want to put more and more time into them, even though you know it's not really helping you in any way. And here's some bad news that I have to break to you. Quitting games is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done because they're so well designed. And if you don't design your own life to be as fulfilling as the games you play, you'll struggle. But the best thing about this is that because we know what being addicted to good game design feels like, we can actually use the same tools that game developers use to literally like trap us into game addiction and use those same things to apply that to our own lives so we can feel like literally playing and managing our own lives is as enjoyable and as fulfilling as the games that we play. So you don't have to spend all this time leveling up a character in a game. You can literally level up yourself instead. But honestly, don't let me fool you with some gimmicky bullshit, because you know that gamification has been a thing for over a decade. And from gamification, there has been no YouTube channels that blew up because it's so helpful. There's been no people who are extremely successful who used to be gamers who actively use gamification for their success. No. And the reason is because what people think gamification is just fucking cringe. I'm gonna have to sit you down for this one. This is a thing that every single gamification guru got wrong, and it's the reason why gamification never blew up and it never helped gamers like it should have. Because they take simple things like an XP leveling system, and they think just because a game designer spent like a few years designing this for a specific game, that if they just copy and paste it into life, that it will work for life, and it will work for the majority of people's life. And the thing is that that's just not the case. It's not going to work, because think about how much the game designer had to think about the design of that leveling system for the specific game. And now you think you just like steal it and put it into life and it's going to work just because it's an element from a game? Come on, man. We've got to think a lot harder than just that. So if we're not going to use gamification, what's the alternative? Well, Yu Kai Chao, the author of Actionable Gamification, who brought gamification to the business world and made all of these companies so insanely successful, he rebranded the term gamification and turned it into human-focused design. Because think about what gamification is for. Gamification is for characters in a game. So if you want to live a life that is way more fulfilling than the games you play, then you're just going to have to learn how to design one that is more fulfilling than the games you play. I've spent the last 5 years building as many systems as possible as I could to help understand how to even do that and what that even means. But the biggest thing I wanted to avoid with that is that I didn't want to become a YouTuber whose only incentive to help people was to get them to binge watch their videos. Because that's not going to help anyone. Even if I did teach you how to design a life that was fulfilling, if the only thing that got you to do that was just binge watching videos, that would be really horrible, and I don't want to be that kind of person. So instead, what I decided to do was build an app that would give you all the tools and systems to help you design a fulfilling life using game design. And by doing that, I don't have to make people binge watch tons of content. They can just download the app as soon as they understand what they need to do. They don't need to watch the next video and the next video just so I can sprinkle these little hints at them and get them to spend hours of their lives just so that they can get like a 1-minute insight. I've built a free version of the app called Life Game Design that helps you understand, organize, and optimize every area of your life using the same techniques that game developers use to get you addicted to games so that you can make your own life as fulfilling as the games that you play, or even more. If you want to see the app in action, you can click this video below here, or if you want to learn more about the philosophy of life game design, you can click the other video.